Hi, this is Steve Kubby, and I'd like to take a moment to talk to you about energy and the environment. The twin specters of global warming and energy dependence haunt our nation. Both represent major threats to our economy, to our national security, and ultimately to our freedom. These two problems and their solutions are intertwined. How do we meet this challenge? As one of my fellow libertarians, Ernie Hancock of Arizona, likes to say, the answer is freedom. Now, what was the question? Scientists say that the major factor in global climate change is our use of fossil fuels. That's just a fact. But there's another fact that, alongside with the first, should tell you something. Henry Ford designed his Model A, the first mass-produced automobile, to run on what we now call biodiesel, specifically hemp seed oil. But any number of vegetable oils can be used to power engines. It was cheap, and although it wasn't much of a concern then, it also produced a lot fewer polluting emissions than gasoline. Why did we end up with gasoline? Because government has heavily subsidized the oil industry for more than a century. The reason renewable, domestically producible fuels aren't economically feasible compared to petroleum is that much of the cost of petroleum is hidden. We can start with at least hundreds of billions, possibly trillions of dollars spent having the U.S. military secure that industry's supplies. You don't pay it at the pump, but you do pay it. In the meantime, you're also paying farmers not to produce. That's because there's a glut of farmland and farm labor. Your tax dollars are spent to prop up prices and subsidize farming. Instead of production goals, farmers work under production ceilings to keep competition from winnowing anyone out. But what if the bulk of American farmland could be put to productive use in an environment where more rather than less production was called for, and where demand and supply were aligned with a free market? Some farmers would continue to produce food crops, but others would sow crops intended for fuel production. Remove those two sets of subsidies to the petroleum industry and to agriculture, and see how fast biodiesel and other farm-produced fuels become competitive with gasoline. Even with a 100-year head start in producing the bulk of research and development funding, petroleum just can't compete if it has to do so on a level playing field. As a result, we'll have stronger family farms as well as energy that's clean, that's renewable, and that can be produced at home. History tells us that dependence on distant energy sources can quickly become a very bad position to be in. See, for example, Germany and Japan in World War II. Our dependence on foreign oil exposes us to economic blackmail and makes us militarily vulnerable. Overnight change isn't possible, but if elected president, I would get us back on a track for energy independence. Reduction of net greenhouse emissions is good for the environment, good for our economy, and absolutely necessary for our national security. And cutting the web of subsidies that has kept us dependent on foreign oil will be good for our freedom. This is Steve Kubby, Libertarian for President, and I approve of this message.
That's the train of freedom. It's about to rise any minute now. You know, it's been a long overdue. Look out, 'cause it's coming right on